Finally, the meeting happened, the phone call in secret. No one was expecting that this morning at 10 o'clock, Inácio would talk to Trump. Guys, the guy was scared out of his mind, just like you're imagining, but completely terrified. He called 1, 2, 3, 4. He practically called all the ministries. He stayed by my side. I can't talk to Trump alone. The little girl from Cable News Network was there, completely ecstatic. Oh, my beloved, talk to Trump. And the conversation, which they say lasted half an hour. I doubt that Lula managed to talk for that long, bothering Trump for half an hour. But that's what they said, right? Obviously, the American government isn't going to say how many minutes they talked to the drunkard, right? Trump set up another trap for the guy, another trap. We'll show it all here, my friends. Guys, those guys were scared out of their minds. It happened suddenly out of nowhere. Oh, Lula talked to Trump and all that. What a terrifying thing. The guy's trying to make all kinds of mystery, all kinds of hiding it, right, from Brazilian society that Lula was going to talk to Trump. We'll show everything here. The result, what happened, and their statement. Will you share this video? Hit the like button. We're going to share the news. The information just came out. Check it out. The little girl from Cable News Network is dating the central bank president, and people are still talking about it. It's embarrassing how desperate Cable News Network is to try to get some positive news out of the government. The reporter, the little girl, announces the phone call between Lula and Trump, who avoided the face-to-face meeting. Lula was desperate because Trump would say, "Hey, come here, let's talk face-to-face." And he was so desperate that he called Alckmin, Mauro Vieira, that whole bunch of cronies who were all talk and no action, right? To be by his side, to give him some encouragement. Go on, Lula, go on, you can handle it, you can handle it. It's just a phone call. Lula, you don't have to face Trump in person. Look here, look.
The information just came in that Lula and Donald Trump scheduled.
Wow, it even makes your eyes go wide.
They scheduled the conversation about the tariffs, and more than just scheduled it. Look at what it's saying here on our screen. The call was scheduled for today at 10 o'clock in the morning. Breaking news here on Cable News Network Brazil, we confirm. That's right.
It even comes to a stop.
They're talking now. That's the information that just came in to me. Therefore, now at 10:52, the information has been confirmed that Lula, the Brazilian president, and the president of the United States are in this.
Brazilian president, Filho, what president are you talking about?
Are you making a video call now? The call happens after tariffs are imposed. All this has already happened to Brazilian products, even recently. We talked about it here, almost as if tossing the question in the air, wondering when this call would happen.
They were desperate. In fact, my friends, to talk. So let's go to this news, the statement they released, right? Lula asked Trump to drop the 40% tariff after he already raised it from 10% to 40%, then to 50%. Trump didn't respond at all. Let's see here the statement. Inácio received a phone call from Donald Trump this morning in a friendly tone. Statement from the misgovernment. The two leaders talked for 30 minutes when they recalled, look here, the good chemistry they had in New York. There was no chemistry at all. Lula described the contact as an opportunity to restore the friendly relations of 201 years between the two nations. Not democracies, right? Because the United States is a democracy, but here it's not anymore. He noted that Brazil is one of 3 G20 countries where the United States has a trade surplus. He asked for the 40% surcharge on national products and the restrictions on Brazilian authorities to be lifted. Look at him asking Trump to remove it. The granting of visas to several members of this misgovernment and also the Magnitsky Act for Alexander de Moraes and his wife, Trump designated. That's where the riddle comes in. That's where Trump's move comes in. Okay, fine. Bolsonaro this, Bolsonaro that. Let's do the following. I'll talk to you to negotiate, to talk with my Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Trump didn't close any deals. Trump didn't promise anything. He just said, like, hey, go talk to Marco Rubio, try to talk to Rubio, right? So you guys can understand here, take a look. Folha de São Paulo itself got completely desperate. After all, Marco Rubio, look, yeah. He's a Cuban refugee. His family were Cuban refugees. He knows very well that what's happening here is the same thing that happened back in his country. After speaking with Lula, Trump decides Marco Rubio will continue negotiations. Marco Rubio, son of Cuban refugees and a fighter against the left in Latin America. The guy who denounced the sanctions against Alexandre for human rights violations. When Lula asked, "Take Alexandre off the Magnitsky list, he's a good guy. He just wants democracy here in our country." Trump must have said that about everything. I can smell booze from here. Go talk to Marco Rubio. He's the one who's going to negotiate. And the journalist from Folha in the Rubio article internally was always more in favor of imposing sanctions against Lula. It was the United States Treasury Department that resisted, mainly claiming manipulation of the Magnitsky Act, its instrumentalization. With clear presidential ambitions, the head of American diplomacy and son of Cuban exiles has also led strong pressure in Latin American countries to contain the progressive agenda, as if they even had a plan. Those guys are wasting away. In other words, Marco Rubio is the one who will negotiate the terms with Lula, and Lula knows that nothing is going to come out of that deal. Because it's like this. President Trump's letter is clear. Stop the persecution against the right, especially against President Bolsonaro. This witch hunt. And the heavy tariffs won't be lifted, much less the sanctions imposed against these figures. By the look on Haddad's face, you could already tell they were desperate. They didn't look good. No, just look.
A statement will be released soon from the palace about the topic, giving the details that were agreed upon. So the president has already recommended releasing a statement.
But how was the meeting?
I don't want to. We agreed that the grade will be the expression of...
How long does it last?
I'm being honest with you.
What about the economic point of view?
It was positive, but the palace will release the statement, okay?
I clearly wanted to speak. It was positive. It was wonderful to talk with the President of the United States of America, but this attitude of theirs, keeping this mystery. You can't say anything, just keep quiet for the record. It says there that it was half an hour, like I said here. I don't believe Trump managed to talk for half an hour with that Boricoto. With that guy there, who's worthless. The press is going to expose that Eduardo Bolsonaro was forgotten, that Lula is now the best friend. But guys, it's just another narrative. If Trump really intended to stop with all these sanctions, right? He would have warned Lula, or rather, sometimes he might not even have warned him. The fact is just that in this whole situation he's seeing, he knows that Lula is practically an agent of China. Lula doesn't want anything to do with the United States. It's just that he knows that many businessmen here depend on business with the United States, and there must be a lot of pressure from these businessmen after all of this happened. We're talking about thousands of millions, right? In reais, billions of reais are involved in all these negotiations. And all this mystery they try to hide from Brazilian society really shows that. No one was imagining that today at 10 o'clock they kept all this a secret. The level of desperation they were in, right? To really afraid, of things getting out of control. But the thing is, negotiating directly with Marco Rubio himself, even last year, he was the one talking about the sanctions. Here. Among Brazilian personalities, since I prefer not to call them authorities, let's put it that way. I don't like referring to them as authorities. Along with Maria Elvira Salazar. I'm still telling you no. I wouldn't be surprised if this week he released even more Magnitsky. One of the ministers, and you know who the main minister is, who's in the hot seat with these new sanctions. They're trying to do everything they can because public opinion was very strong at that meeting. But the guy wore those big full diapers. He didn't even have the courage to go to the White House because he knows very well how he would be received there. Just like the guy from South Africa was received, just like Zelensky himself. At that first moment, when he tried to stand up to Trump, that's how this guy would be received. Can you imagine the guy who says he wants to get rid of the dollar, wants to introduce the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa currency? He constantly provoked Trump. Do you think they don't take these things into account? Trump is surrounding him to deliver the final blow. And I think it's going to be this man who's responsible for putting Inácio in his rightful place. Marco Rubio, who knows very well what's happening here in Brazil. Guys, everyone is commenting here, right? The possibilities and all that, right? Here, Trump for Lula, even Kleber had already mentioned it too. He was one of the first to release a statement. People commenting, an empty pastry, meeting, and it's a statement worthy of Sidonio. What was effective? Nothing. There was nothing effective. He asked to lift sanctions and offered what in return? End anti-American lawsuits, stop persecuting Bolsonaro, and restore his eligibility, right? I think that's what Trump must have said to him. He said, look, stop this persecution of Bolsonaro and we'll talk again. That's the truth. Well said here by the viewer here. Trump must have said it like that. We're not going to negotiate until this barbarity is over, all this stuff we're seeing. There will be no negotiation until you release Jair Messias Bolsonaro, who, by the way, went through the same phase that Trump went through over there, right? People here are already making a lot of jokes about it on the internet, right? There are too many comments for me to mention. Imagine, do you think Lula would make this public? That shabby little forest where they released Trump, if they talked, let's go with that. I don't believe in half an hour or even 15 minutes. Trump must have said something like, look, the measure is clear, release Bolsonaro, he's eligible, he must have even said that. We're not going to recognize next year's elections without Bolsonaro, right? And that's it, it's over. Yeah, those are the terms. He wants everything to go back to normal. So, do what's right. Because it's absurd. It's absurd to see the greatest political leader of this country imprisoned in such a humiliating way by these people. Lula must have heard that, and that's why Trump sent someone to negotiate with Rubio now. Imagine how pathetic that is. Totally pathetic, putting all those people there just so they can stay. Like a kind of, no Lula, no Lulinha, don't worry, we're here. If you need anything, we're here. Man, what an embarrassing situation. What an embarrassing situation. Subscribe to Pais e Filhos. I'll return soon with more news and updates.